How now, brown cow?
Me.
How now,
Oh.
brown cow?
Okay, we're ready. We're ready.
Tight.
How now, brown cow?
Hey everybody, it's Aaron from Corlane Sporting Goods, and this is our 5th podcast, and this one's brought to you by Ballistics Targeting Systems at ballistics.ca. So it's Canada's first and only custom turret generator with probably the most accurate ballistics calculator on the market. So check it out, and we'll get into it a bit later too. So we've got Nathan back with us again. He was our second podcast guest from Yukon Peak, and we wanted to get into a little bit about what his season's been like. So Nathan, welcome back, and we really appreciate you showing up today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. So for anyone that didn't hear your first podcast, tell us, what are you doing? Who are you working for?
Well, first podcast was before guiding season with working for my brother, Yukon Peak, and we just talked about outfitting, guiding, basically going from Northwest Territories to the Yukon. We touched a little bit about training and all sorts of stuff. Yep. And so now we're just gonna follow up with how we did. And
if you didn't see the second one, go back and check it out, and a little more of this will probably make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm a little better prepared this time. Like I was looking at my first podcast, and it was like a Trudeau podcast. It was so many
water,
and,
juice box, drink thing.
So I think you're gonna
hit this out.
I'm prepared. I'm gonna home run this one.
You're gonna slay it.
You guys threw me to the wolves last time, but I got you this time.
We'll see about that.
Yep. So tell us about your season.
Our season was really good. For our first year, I think we did really good. We got a lot of sheep, a lot of nice animals. Our crew was amazing, and yeah.
So how many hunts did you guys sell or harvest this year?
We took 13 rams this year.
Yeah.
We took 1 grizzly bear, 1 caribou, and I think we took about 10 moose, roughly. So, yeah. It was really good.
That's excellent.
And your hunt blocks are set up with 4 hunts going on at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
2 horseback and then 2 backpack kind of setups.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can split it up between old guys and young guys.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how it went down.
So after having a season doing both of them, what are your thoughts on the types of hunters coming in for them? Like, are they prepared for the hunts? And do you find you get the old dudes that want to do the horseback and the young guys want to put the miles on?
I would say so. That's pretty much what we've been doing.
Yeah.
There's been sometimes the hunters come in and all 4 of them are in good shape and they can do pretty much whatever you need them to do. And but yeah. Sometimes guys really want that horseback, and sometimes they don't, man.
Yeah.
Like me and Greg wouldn't want that horse thing, so.
No. Get up there and hit the mountain and shed a couple pounds.
Oh, hey, but a can of chunky soup now and again is a pretty good deal when you got horseback in it.
Bacon and eggs for breakfast every morning. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Costco freeze-dried
hash
browns, add water, sausage.
Yeah,
those are good. Those dehydrated hash browns.
Yeah, those little things you
don't even start.
Yeah.
So how was what are your success rates like if a person was looking at possibly going horseback versus hiking? Do you see more animals one or the other?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think that has really anything to do with it. No matter what kind of hunt you do, you're going to be the opportunity is going to be there for you.
Yep.
So just depends on what kind of shape you're in, what you're willing to how hard you're willing to work and put yourself through. And the game's going to be there regardless of the type of hunt you want. So
and background too. I mean, you get guys that are they want that horse experience because they've never seen it or never been around it.
They've seen a video, a Western, whatever.
Yeah, you hop on a horse and you're clippity clop for 5 hours. Your legs are sore and your legs are bowed, but you're going to see some neat country.
Yeah.
It's kind of
it's the experience. It's the adventure
you get to have your head on a swivel and really take it in because your horse is paying attention to where you're going, right? You just get to look around and kind of be a passenger almost. And then once you get to look, you're going to have to get off your horse at some time and do some hiking, right? They don't walk you to the top, but camp's nice and, different scenarios. But I had fun this year. I went up with Lou on a horseback hunt, just because he's let's go up. And it was great, into camp. Everything's different though. Like you get up, you work on horses, eat your thing, then you go hunting. Where backpack hunt, it's like you roll out a tent, scrub your teeth, and you're up there already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the horse, you're going to move into areas. But I find, if you're on a combo hunt for some things, with backpacking, there's no such thing as a combo hunt backpacking.
It's
you're not going to shoot a moose. You're not going to shoot generally a caribou. You're going to hunt a sheep, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Where a horse, if moose walks in front of you, you're like, well, I got a string of 6 to deal with this mess.
Might as well tip it over.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun, different experience, and take them in. And I, compared to our weather, like when we went up on our hunt, we got a huge snowfall, then it got warm, the rivers just exploded. I think everybody in BC, like northern BC, stone sheep hunting, it's been horrible weather for everybody.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, I'd get messages from you guys, and Rob's texting, another 18 above day calling moose, when it should be 2 below, 3 below.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got, when we went out, it was like 25-degree weather, and then rain. It was just swampy the entire hunt kind of thing, because hiking in the rain, stop for a rain day, get rained out for 2 days. So, are you going to just sit around and do nothing?
You just
get back on the trail, and you're just wet inside your rain gear and outside your rain gear, and it was just soaking wet. But so that was the northern BC hunt of just nonstop rain the whole hike, and compared to you guys were dry.
Yeah.
Hot and dry. So how did that affect the hunts?
I think the hardest thing was water was so scarce this year. Like I think everywhere else I've hunted, I've never had to worry about water. Like you're constantly, like at stands, like we used to, like you'd step over a creek every freaking 10 feet, man.
Yeah, there's literally water.
There's water even when you're on the tops of the mountains, ridge running. There's water, and in the Yukon, man, this part anyway was just dry. Like lots of our hunts, we were like once a day we'd go like hike basically all the way down the mountain with our bladders and our bottles, all the hunters' bottles, and come back up, like make a 2-3 hour water run every single day. And I've never ever done that. Like I have a water bladder, and I probably used it a couple times in my life before this, and then this year it was like probably like the most important piece of gear that I had. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the norm, or I think it's just historically dry there, what it's been like. But water played a
if you don't
water
have
played a huge factor.
If you don't have those snowpacks that are constantly bleeding out,
there's no snowpacks.
You're reliant on rain to be seeping out all those fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than assuming there's water somewhere, getting up there.
Oh.
And you basically have one day, and you're limping your carcass out of there.
Yeah.
You're having dry oatmeal for breakfast.
Well, and I guess that we had discussions before we went on our sheep hunt of we switched areas 3 times before the hunt. Initially, we were going in here, and then we were going in here, and then we ended up going in here. But we were looking at water was one of the biggest factors on, okay, if our goal is to hike to here because we know there's water there, do we set up camp there and then do our day hikes from there, or do you pack your bladder up onto the mountain top and then get up each morning but know that you're going to have to do those runs every day? So I mean, I guess with you guys with paid hunters, they're not the ones putting the miles on, it's you guys working your bag off to go get them water, I guess. That's kind of the
pretty much.
Would you, if you were going on the same hunt, would you camp near the water, or would you camp high and hike for water?
That's probably the hardest dilemma when you're backpack hunting, is like where to camp in relation to where the water is and also to where the sheep is, right? So ideally, like if you've located sheep, like kind of what I would want to do is like camp where don't camp too close to the sheep, because man, if they bust you, you're done, right? So what I would try to do is camp like within, say, half to 3/4 of a day away from the sheep, right? So that you have enough time to go after that sheep, get that sheep, and bring it back to camp, to your spike camp within a long day. That's kind of an ideal situation. It doesn't always work that way, but if there's water at that spot and the sheep are, a few miles away, throw your tent up, man. That's your spot, right? But But yeah, it's always a bit of a dilemma where to camp. And one of our hunts, we spent the night on the mountain because we just we were just too far from our camp where we killed the sheep. So yeah, it was a grinder. So yeah.
And so at that point, does everyone in the hunt do that, or was it just you and one hunter? Or?
Oh, just me and a hunter.
Okay.
Yeah, just me and a hunter.
Yeah. Usually it's 1-on-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snuggling up, no tent, hanging out on the mountain.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you want to get into the details on that hunt, or?
Yeah, I would. So, that was for like our season highlights, I guess, hey?
Sure. Yeah.
So that hunt was with Joe Loomis, who is from Dawson Creek. You guys know him. He's a good friend of mine.
Great guy.
And for me, it was like the first time I ever got to guide like an actual friend of mine. Yep. Like I've got to take like Cam out when he got to like take his guide ram. So I've taken guides out when they got to hunt for themselves, but I've never had a client that as a friend too. Yep. So our hunt was awesome. We got dumped off on this ridge top. I think there was 7 or 8 rams we were heading after. And it was funny because on the way over, like Joe's from BC's killed 2 stone sheep. And he's like, yeah, if we see a Fannin, like I would never shoot a Fannin, dude. And I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. Like you're a BC resident, you've killed 2 stone sheep. I'm like, we're not going to see a Fannin, man. I haven't even seen a sheep with a black tail yet. So he's like, yeah, okay. And so Joe also had a grizzly bear tag. Sorry, Joe, but I'm going to tell them. So it was like second day, I think. And we're like probably still about 4 hours away from where the sheep are. Actually, Joe spotted this bear. I was looking at the sheep. This bear come out of nowhere. Joe's like, what do you think? And I was like, well, we're still a long ways from the sheep. I'm like, let's do it, man. It's a nice bear. So we went after this bear. And long story short, he screwed up. He botched his shot. I don't know what happened to him, but he missed. And he was pretty down on himself. I was a little bit down, but I was like, okay, we're still in this. Like, that wasn't a sheep. We can still see the sheep. So I'm like, it's okay. Like, you get your one mulligan. Yeah. Get your shit together. Don't do it again.
How far was this?
350.
Oh, we get to bug him about that.
But so what he did, like he had his bipod on a rock. The bear was like moving through this berry patch. And instead of just like, he kind of ran out of room as he was pivoting. And so instead of just like repositioning on the rock, he kind of got up, threw the gun over his knee, shot. I didn't even see what he was doing because I was just watching. Yeah. And he's like, did I hit it? And I was like, no, like you weren't even close, man. Oh, and I was like, yeah. And then he told me what he did. And I was like, okay, it's okay. It happens. Get it together. So we're like, we just keep going. We had a little lunch, little recovery, went after these sheep. And so we found the sheep. And I think there was like 7 rams. There was 2 that broomed on one side, long on the other. We ended up naming the sheep this year for some reason. I don't know. We were just having fun.
Nicknames.
So we had nicknames for the
sheep. It was so these 2 rams were Doug and Jerry that we named. I don't know why. We're just like, that's Doug and that's Jerry. And we had Elliot. We had a whole bunch of names for sheep. It was fun, man. We had a fun year. And anyway, so Joe was kind of like, which ram do you think's the best? And I was like, I don't know, either Doug or Jerry. It doesn't really matter. The other ones aren't shooters. There was one that was like really nice, tipped up, but young, like a 7-year-old or something. And these sheep were in a really low spot. And I just looked down. All the sheep were looking down into the timber. And I looked down and I just seen this kind of a grayish flash kind of. And I was like, oh man, it must be a wolf. Because the sheep were like, usually when sheep see another sheep, they're not that like glued to it. Like they'll look at it. And then they look, and then they know what it is, right? So I threw the scope up, and I was like, oh, frick, it's a Fannin, like a really dark Fannin, like a nice Fannin. And I looked at Joe, and he's like, yeah, I don't want a Fannin. I'm like, look at it. Look at it. So he looks at it, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to shoot that thing. I'll come back next year for a doll. I'm like, that's what I thought. So anyway, the sheep are kind of they were just wide open. It was about 650 yards. We just couldn't get any closer. And the Yukon, everything's really round and it makes the hiking easier, but it makes the stalk super hard because like, you know, like BC, a lot of times like you can roll over a ridge and it's just like a straight drop off. You can see absolutely everything in front of you.
Yep.
And there you can't. It's like a bread loaf, right? So you're just like a couple hundred yards at a time. So we kind of set up and the Rams got in this dip and I thought they were going to work their way out to us. We waited for a couple hours, but they didn't. And I walked around. I ended up having to climb almost all the way down the mountain and look into this bowl before I could finally see these flipping things. So me and Joe make a mad dash over there. We get set up. Sheep have no idea we're there. Joe lays down, perfect rest, makes 2 really good shots at, I think it was about 500 yards, hit the sheep twice perfectly. And we were just like, we were just ecstatic, right? It was awesome.
Yeah.
And so we go ripping down to the sheep and we're like, oh man, it's just the prettiest sheep I've ever been a part of, right? Broomed on both sides, like looks like just a light colored stone. It's just gorgeous. Yeah. So then that was the night it was like 10 o'clock when we were taking pictures, butchering, and then we hiked until basically like 2 a.m. and we're just like, we can't make it to camp. So we kind of slept until the sun came out.
Yeah.
Next day, Rob texts me and he's like, hey, John's going to be in the area. Can you guys make it to the airstrip with that sheep? So we're like, frick, like, because we've been up for like almost 36 hours straight. So we just hoofed it all the way to the airstrip with the sheep, got the sheep picked up, and then we went back to bear hunting for a few days. But inevitably, we didn't get another bear. But yeah, it was an awesome hunt, man.
That's awesome.
It was an awesome hunt.
With for any of our listeners or viewers on YouTube that aren't aware what you mean by a Fannin sheep compared to a stone compared to a doll, can you give us a quick rundown?
Well, the Fannin sheep, like a true Fannin sheep, is basically a cross between a stone and a doll. And I don't necessarily know if they're actually crossed, or I think a lot of it is like evolutionary. I think.
Yeah.
I know like Jim Fink, for example, like when he got his area in the northern part of the Yukon, I think he probably got it 15 years ago. He said most of the sheep in his area when he got it were doll sheep. They were pure white. And now it's hard for him to get like a pure white sheep. It's like more like 50-50. So I think the sheep are just evolving. I think they're spending more time in the timber.
They're not in this like the white snow-capped peaks kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't necessarily think that the stone sheep range is expanding. I just think like that. I think that gray hair is more of a dominant gene or whatever. And you know, but this sheep was well, I'll give you guys pictures to add to the podcast. But
for sure.
It's crazy because most of the sheep we had are super, super white, and then this sheep was like, it was like, what's he doing here? Like when we got it inspected in Haines Junction, the CO was like, are you guys sure you got this in your area? Like we've never seen a sheep like this in the southwest corner of the Yukon. Like we've never seen this before. So it was cool. That's cool. Why it was
one-off, eh?
Yeah, it was a super, super important sheep to me. It means like that sheep means the world to me. So I've never guided a sheep like it, and I probably never will. So
kind of the unicorn of the sheep
absolutely.
world.
Yeah,
very few and far
absolutely.
between.
So yeah.
What were numbers like up there for animals?
Numbers were good. The sheep were like I was telling Greg a bit. Like the sheep were like really congregated, which was super weird to us. And I don't know if it was because of the lack of water or what the deal was, but like a lot of times you'd go like, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 basins without seeing anything. And then like this one spot I went, there's like 50 sheep and there's 15 rams mixed with ewes and lambs. And, so it was just really weird compared to what like we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
But I think the numbers were good. It's just, I think the behavioral patterns are different from what I was used to seeing from guiding. The bears are like super spread out. It seems to be like one bear per range or per valley, right? When you go down to like Tumbler, man, you can see, you know, you might go a couple draws without seeing anything, and then there might be like 10 bears in one valley, right? In a burn or something. But there, it's kind of like there's kind of enough berries in each mountain range to kind of hold like one bear, like a boar, maybe a sow and some cubs or something. So the animal, the numbers were good. It's just it's different than what we're used to. But no, the numbers are definitely very good.
Because a lot of areas you have that I've been in too is a lot of the areas of desert, and then you have this corridor, which is the main food source, and most of everything's in there,
right,
except for a few strays here and there. Yeah, where if you said you got mountain rivers that are actually salmon rivers in the late. You got berries. You got obviously game, moose, elk, tidbit of, or no elk, just caribou.
No elk, just caribou. Yeah,
and buffalo on the far corner. So lots of meat, berries. So yeah, it's neat.
What's mortality rates like for sheep in the Yukon? Like to get through the winter, is there like a 50% loss or?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so.
They're pretty hardy.
And the weather's. It's
better in BC for the Dall sheep for sure for condition wise.
Yeah, like, and it's kind of like we're only just a few hours from the coast, so it's pretty mild, really. Like you'd think because it's so far north that it'd be like extreme cold, but like last year in this spot, like it was December, January, and like the pilot, like I think they said they had like a foot of snow in like he lives in Burwash, which is kind of like an hour from Haines Junction. Like they had like a foot of snow, like literally all winter.
Wow.
Like it's crazy. Like they had way warmer than we had and way less snow. It's crazy. So,
and what about predation up there? Like the wolves, the grizzlies,
there's wolves, there's wolverines, there's grizzlies, there's eagles,
but do they have much effect on the sheep?
I think they
take
would.
A bunch?
I think they, well, I mean, they're going to take some. I don't know exactly what they would take, but they're definitely going to take some.
Yeah.
Probably not so much grizzlies, but probably eagles kill as much as any of those things. As far as sheep, absolutely, yeah. Eagles are bad, and you always see eagles, right? When you're looking for sheep and you can't find sheep, usually if you can see an eagle like doing this, it's like, there's probably going to be a sheep on the other side of that hill.
Interesting.
They give away lots of sheep and goats. It's a super good tip, man.
Yeah.
I've seen eagles for sure.
I've seen the videos of them swooping down, and it was goats that I saw picking up the little goats, picking them up and dropping them and chucking them off.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
More than you'd think. Yeah.
So grizzlies. That's a big topic of discussion. We touched on it the first time you were here.
Yeah.
Now that you spent a season up in the Yukon, it doesn't sound like they're as thick up there as they are here.
Yeah, I don't think they're as thick, but I think the numbers are still good. I think they're just more spread out, and so we just have to learn more about them and as far as how we're gonna hunt them differently, right? Yeah. So I know like Rob and John, when they were flying out at the end of the year, like October-ish, like some of the rivers start getting salmon up them, and then like Rob and John were flying out and they seen like 3 grizzlies on the river in a 500-yard stretch. So it's kind of like, okay, that's what we got to watch for. Yeah. Right. And then we're going to I think we'd like to do like more spring bear hunts, because I think during the rut they're going to be a little more congregated too. Yeah. But yeah, just from what we learned this year, because we can take 5 bears a year. We have to do a better job, I think, just putting bear tags in almost everybody's pocket, man. Yeah. Because they're so spread out. Like for me, I seen 1 bear while I was hunting, the one Joe missed, and I seen 2 while I was flying. That's all I seen all season long. Yeah.
I see you got the dig in again that Joe missed.
Oh yeah. Okay.
No,
that's my
just
last
bugging.
time, Joe.
Okay.
You missed. You suck.
So 5 tags, and 3 bears is what you saw on this one, but they're never the focus, right? Guys are coming up to hunt sheep.
They're coming up to hunt sheep or moose, and like the caribou and the moose are kind of an accessory animal. Like they're kind of like, the caribou and the bear, right? Kind of like a wolf hunt, almost like you're just sort of. I just think like put a tag in everybody's pocket, and
if it doesn't interfere with the sheep hunt, then
absolutely.
Drop one of those.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. So it's a good resource that we need to take advantage of. Yeah. It's good
like
revenue.
A Wolverine tag,
yeah. It's like if you don't have one, you're probably going to see a flipping Wolverine.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about all those you walk past, and it's not a lot. Yeah. And everyone I've walked past have never had a tag.
Oh, exactly. So exactly.
It's one of those things where it's pretty cheap insurance, and you can really get like a species that is. If you solely hunted a Wolverine,
Oh, you'd never kill one. You wouldn't even see one.
I know. I hate to see how much time it would take.
Yeah. Like I think I've seen like 4 in my life. Yeah, with archery Wolverine.
So, yeah, that'd be a tough racket. So, as far as I'm concerned, if I was going into a northern area and there was bonus species where you just bought the tag and a trophy fee, I would have every single one of those in my pocket.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You're not going to Africa without a mitt full of,
Yeah.
Well, meals change now. We're going, kudu hunting. We're going this.
Yeah.
Adapt to it, because, when a big boar is there, I'd be sad to walk away from if you get the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, heartbreaking. So,
yeah.
That's what we have to do. We just, as we learn more from basically the best way to learn is by screwing up.
Yeah.
So, we had a good season, but like things like the bears, like we're just sort of like, we kind of know like what we have to do to get more bears, right? We can do it. The bears are there. So we just have to like learn from this year, and we'll do a better job next year for sure of getting more bears.
And back to the sheep, what were the average ages? Like you harvested 13 sheep, and what were they for size and age and that sort of thing?
We were pretty much a 10-year-old average.
Nice.
So that was awesome. That was really good. That's kind of what we wanted to like set as a goal.
Yeah.
We got a lot of broomed sheep. The best sheep we got, Chad and Morgan guided, and it was like 39.5 on both sides, just like your typical like gorgeous ram.
Yeah.
The kind of rams that I never get. Every time I go into a group of rams, it's like there's some old broomed off freak, and that's the one I end up shooting. So I don't know.
Not the beauty queen.
No, I never see those kinds of
fancy.
I just never see those kinds of sheep, and it's crazy. Like my buddy Gary, like he always gets like these fancy ass tipped rams, and I'm like, I never see rams like that. All the rams I got I like broomed rams too, but yeah, that was our best sheep of the year was that one that Chad and Morgan got.
Yep.
And then we held on to about a 10-year average. So
that's awesome.
It was really good.
For anyone that didn't see the first podcast, we discussed that quite a bit on people's negative perception on trophy hunting versus just hunting to fill the freezer. And you had a really cool spin on that those trophy rams. So would you say 10 and up are the ones that are no longer breeding?
Probably. There might be a few that are 10 that are still doing their thing, but
they're in their bonus years if they're at 10.
For sure. Sure.
That 7 to 9 is where they're in their prime, and
they're doing
kicking
those
off
rams.
offspring.
Those rams are totally doing all the breeding. So any ram you get that's 10 plus or something is he's likely in his bonus years for sure. So
I thought that was an excellent. I've never heard it laid out like that you take those big old ones and instead of I'm going for the trophy, you know what, you're working in more of a conservation mode than anything else, because you take out all those 7 and 8 year old rams. Now there's your prime breeding stock gone out of the herd.
Gone.
So
they're gone, and then likely that 12-year-old that's maybe in that band, or maybe he's on the other side of the hill. He's probably going to die in the wintertime anyway.
Yep.
So you just kind of screwed yourself by killing a ram. So, age is the most important thing as a sheep guide. Like it really is. Like,
and what's that like at 600 yards? Like, because you said Joe's ram was 500 yards. We talked a couple days ago, and you were saying a lot of your rams this season were well over 400 yards. So what's that like? I mean, when I got on my ram and was looking at 300 yards, and we're counting rings and that sort of thing, it was still difficult. I mean, you get that perfect angle, and then they got their head tilted, and you're trying to see, is it full curl, and how many years is it? Is that a false annuli on it? There's so much to it. How does that happen at 500 to 600 yards? Is it just experience? Or?
I think so. I think it's totally experience, and you can judge a lot by, like we talked last time a little bit about like the sheep's body and the sheep's behavior and stuff. And I'll just talk about like the last sheep hunt we did was me and my friend Cass did it together, and we were just grinding away. Couldn't find anything mature. We seen a couple rams that were 7, 8 that were just like, no, we got to find something older. And then we seen this ram that was just like black horns. We see dark horns. That's a really good indicator of age.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. So
Yeah.
we've seen this ram all by himself, which is again is a good clue, right? Usually like 7-8-year-old rams they're never by themselves. Hey,
Gotcha.
So we've seen this ram by himself, long ways away, dark horns, super low slung, but he's tipped. He's not even close to being curl.
Yeah.
And we were kind of at that spot where we're like, man, we have to we climbed all the way up this mountain. And we have to drop all the way back down. But like me and Cass were both like, it was too far to age, but we were both like, that sheep he's got a swayed back. He's got a big belly. He's got a Roman nose.
Yep.
He's got black horns. He's by himself. We're like, he's probably going to be like a 10-year-old ram. So we're like, let's go for it. So we made this big play off the mountain. And I ended up staying on top of this ridge, giving her and John, the hunter, hand signals. They snuck down. And then I kind of started aging it from, I was getting good rings from about 800 yards. I was like, yeah, I think that thing's like 9 for sure. Yep. And then they snuck into like 450. And then Cass was like, yeah, it's like 9 or 10. They shot it and we rolled over the canyon, and 10 years old. It was
got pictures
perfect.
of this one too?
I do. I'll send
We'll
those
them
in
up
too. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of it's just the more times you do it, the better it gets. And I was kind of like an ongoing joke this year, because every single sheep I got this year, I was like, yep, got a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old. And then we'd take it to Haynes and get it aged. And they were like 11, 9. And they Jewed me on every single sheep. Every sheep I got screwed by a year or whatever. So whenever somebody asked me like, how old was it? It was just like, haha, like you don't know
Knock
anyway.
off a year or two.
Yeah. So it was kind of an ongoing joke, but
yeah. And I guess that just comes, like, you've seen hundreds, if not thousands of rams in your years of guiding, probably that you've had your eyes on.
Not thousands.
Hundreds
not
of
thousands.
rams.
No.
And so
few more years yet.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just by having something to compare to that you know what you're looking for. That your green hunter like me wouldn't be picking it out as quick and easy. You guys gave me all kinds of phenomenal information, like that swayed back, the Roman nose, looking for those things, how low are the horns and stuff like that. But again, I wasn't willing to pull the trigger until the other guys I was with were, even though, and I'll get into this in I'll be bringing in the crew that I hunted with for a podcast, but I mean, I saw my ram at 18 yards for a few moments and had no gun in my hand. And we'll get into that at a later date. But at that point I was like, oh, that's full curl. I didn't have a chance to count, but I snapped a couple pictures because I had a camera instead of a gun in my hands, and I'm an idiot for that. But
Snap.
But yeah, with that, I mean, I still went back. What do you guys think? And at this point, they ran out to about 600 yards, and then we spent another couple hours. Yeah, because they stopped moving. They bedded down. They were hanging out, and we spent the time. And I wanted to make sure everyone was in agreement before I hiked out there to poke a shot at it. So and at 600 yards, I mean, we got some great photos that we'll throw up too. That can see kind of what we were looking at through the spotting scope and stuff. But again, it's one of those things. I will not pull the trigger unless I know for a fact.
It's nerve-wracking. Even you think that a guy's got experience, you are still always second guessing.
Unless it's like crazy beyond its
obvious.
Yeah. Like Libby's ram.
Or one of my biggest stones. I mean, there was a fist over its nose that broomed as heavy as a Coke can. Yeah. Well, that one's legal.
Yeah. No
I've seen it from 14 miles away, and it's like legal ram, when the horn looks like it's touching again. Yeah. But you can count how many of those you've seen on one hand, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And most of them are dead.
Yeah. Yeah, and the age average in BC is always less than the territories. Like, it's harder to kill, like a 12 or 13-year-old ram in BC. There's not many rams like that get killed, right? There's a lot more pressure out there. And if they do, it's probably going to be more of an outfitter kill in a remote area. Whereas in the territories, you can still get crazy old rams because they haven't been chased out.
There's not as much pressure.
Not as much. So
speaking of that, in your neck of the woods, what is the pressure like? Like, can a resident hunter get in to hunt right beside where you're?
There's a few places they can access, and like I didn't personally see any residents, but I seen a few boot prints. I seen a couple like like the climbing pole.
Yeah.
You know, those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I seen a lot of those little divots going up a ridge in a couple spots. I was like, yeah, frick. But there's a few places they can access, but it's not too bad. And ultimately there's, I don't know, there's like 60,000 people in the whole Yukon, and 30 of them are in Whitehorse. And there's a good core group of hunters based out of Whitehorse. Thankfully, we're really good friends with a lot of those guys. So they've all kind of said to me and Rob, they're like, yeah, well, we're, now that you guys got that area, we're probably going to stay out of it. So hopefully they do, because those guys are killers. So
they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
And they're going for the big
They know
ones.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like we touched on last time, it's like 10% of sheep hunters kill 90% of the sheep. Yeah. It's the same guys that kill sheep every year, and it's the same guys that don't, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the certain guys that you're like, ooh, that guy's going in here.
Damn.
Shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, and getting back to the BC rams, and there's not a lot of old ones. Like, for example, one of the nicest ones I've seen this year was Chase Oswald's.
Mm-hmm.
How old was that one? You know?
I think it was 9. Yeah, I think it was
and
9.
So one of the nicest
sheep.
ones we've seen is
sheep.
only 9.
Beautiful sheep.
But
It's not a 10 or 12 year.
But growth rings like crazy. Like,
It had
very good eats. You know, just
he was genetically a wicked ram. Like they got him and his buddy Jeff got a double header, and like Chase's ram, like body size was enormous, right? And anytime you see anytime there's a ram with like 14-inch bases or something, he always has an enormous body to carry,
because he's eating lots.
Every ram that's heavy is their body sizes are huge. It's not an accident. It's always like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, and then same thing. Some of the biggest rams, you get 42-inch rams. They're 7 years old, and like say up in the Tashotis and stuff like that once in a while, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
40 plus, 7 years old, like growth rings like this far apart. It's like, and then you'll get the same ram standing next to it. It's 13 years old, and it's like 32 inches.
Yeah.
You're like, what's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're living in the same area. How are they eating different? But just genetics.
Exactly, but it's the same thing. You just walk down the street. How many 7'6" people do you see?
You got a 5 foot tall guy and a 7 foot tall guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just genetics.
Yeah.
With kind of all that in mind, what are this season you took 13 rams out of there. Are you going to do anything different based off what you saw and did this year?
I think like just talking to Rob and Mark and stuff, I think the consensus, like we'll probably try to shoot for more like maybe like 10 rams or something, just so we can maintain a good age average. Like we don't have there's no quota on the sheep, so we could ultimately take 20 sheep if we want, but
what's not the longevity of the business?
It's not sustainable at all, right? So we have a lot of respect for the sheep and the land, and I think 10 rams is good. You know, I think 10 rams we can maintain a 10-year average, and then there might be some instances like we have a few rams that are like, we call them guide rams because they're got one horn, or they're twisted freaks or whatever, right? So your American hunters coming up, they don't want to shoot sheep like that. No. So we might be able to, like, what I ultimately would like to do, and I've talked to Rob about this too, is like get, you know, just some like my local friends of ours that would like really want a doll sheep but just can't, like people like all of us, like we just can't afford it, right? No. So, you know, we can probably get, you know, maybe target 10 rams, but if there's a couple that are one horned or really old or just something that a hunter's not going to take, like we might be able to take like a couple, maybe one or two freaks, like accessory sheep that the mountain or the wolf's going to take them anyway, kind of thing. So so I think that's kind of our.
Do you think you guys would break your blocks instead of having 4 hunters, do a 3?
Yeah, we're talking about maybe doing that instead. And then we can kind of. Then we don't have to like, we don't have to maybe sit out a hunt, you know, where if we did 400 blocks and then all of a sudden, we got 10 rams, but it's like 2 weeks till moose season, right? Now what are we going to do? Like we could cut trail. There's always stuff to do, but maybe we've talked about that. Maybe do 300 blocks and then like, and hopefully we can, you know, maintain our crew, keep the same people we had because they were amazing too, right? So
and horses too, like, you give them a break if in between certain hunts, and then get into the combo type stuff after, and maybe bump back up to 4 block, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I think a lot of people that view hunting as bad for the environment, bad for animals, bad for all these sorts of things, don't hear and see kind of what you were just talking about, that you're focused on the conservation. Let's keep the numbers up. Let's cut the number of hunters back. Let's do this so we can keep the quality of sheep up in there. And herd size is important because, like you say, there's no sustainability if you wipe out all the sheep in the next 5 years.
No, exactly.
And I think one of the biggest disservices that's ever happened to hunters was Bambi. Because, I mean, you think before that, people hunted for food, and then Bambi came out and villainized the hunter.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that changed there. And then the hunter
you better come in styrofoam trays, because otherwise it's not ethically sourced.
And I mean, from Bambi on, we see the hunter as the dumb guy that drives around in the truck shooting everything, and just kind of just that whole, like I say, villainizing of hunters. But a lot of people that aren't in the hunting world wouldn't understand until they sit down and talk to someone like you, that a lot of the hardcore hunters and are conservationists. People in this industry are putting money back into the industry, are paying attention to the numbers and changing how many are harvested and focusing on the harvests and tags and allotment and things like that. So I think that's really important that we all in this industry have to focus on that and get that word out there. And there's a new organization that just started up, One Campfire. Have you heard of that? Yeah. So an offshoot of the Wild Sheep Society that, or they partner with the Wild Sheep, and it's about getting that information out there, that hunting is a sustainable product and we're all enjoying the outdoors, and let's work together on that. And just because you're a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever doesn't mean we can't all sit around and the same campfire and enjoy the great outdoors, right? So I think that's very important. So I love that you bring that sort of thing up, so so people that may not be interested in this content might hear a different spin than they're used to.
For sure.
Changing your numbers. You started to mention you had a pretty kick-ass crew. Do you want to get into the crew a little bit? Guys that you're working with?
So I'll just start, like, I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from the season, was just like how much fun I had with the crew. And I was just like really, really proud of everybody, because whenever there's like a new outfit that comes up, a lot of people will wait until it's proven before they want to work there. You know? So a lot of, like, I know, like my friend Glenda at Canal Outfitters, like she's just like kicking ass, doing so good. And same with like Raven's Throat, they're like new outfits, and now a lot of people want to go there because it's proven. But what I was really proud about with all of us is that, like, our crew like took a real chance on coming here in their first year. And we had guys and girls from Canal, South Nahanni, Bluestone, Mackenzie Mountain Outfitters, like some of the best Dan Reynolds, some of the best outfits out there. And they kind of like took a chance on like
a new
kind
venture.
of it's like the unknown, right? Like they had this amazing experience, but they're like, I wonder what it's gonna be like there. It could be, because it could be really bad, or it could be like amazingly well. So everybody was super brave, and it just took a lot of balls. So I was just really proud of everybody. So I'll just go through everybody really. Like so
how many pilots did you guys run?
One pilot.
Yeah. Okay.
One pilot. I'll talk about John and Sylvia in a bit, but like, so I guess, well, Rob's the outfitter, and I'm just his voice tonight because he didn't want to do this. He's like, you want to do this podcast, Rob? He's like, nah, you can have this one, but
can't do a podcast with a dip.
Yeah. But no, I was really proud of my brother for like taking that next, just that next chapter of his life, because he went from being like basically a head guide at stands to like being an outfitter is extremely stressful. Like you're not just hunting, you're managing people and there's so much behind the scenes that we don't even realize. So for my brother at a young age to like take that on, I was super proud of him. I think he did an awesome job for his first year. And then his girlfriend Sig came up. So yeah, she quit her job at the bank, came up to cook.
Oh, wow.
And she did awesome too. Like that's another thing. Like when you just cook meals at home for your man or whatever, it's like it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so she kind of got like everybody in a sense got like thrown to the wolves, right? Because it's your first year. And Sig she did an awesome job. She like maintained a positive attitude, and she just kind of constantly was like evolving in the kitchen. Like she did a super awesome job. So and then I'll start with the guides. So I'll start with the horse people, because they're not my people. So I guess the first guy Rob hired was Stevie Hansen. He hired him in the winter time. So Stevie started with Rob. They started breaking horses. And then Stevie's also a farrier by trade.
Nice.
And he's guided for Bluestone in BC and Midnight Sun in the Yukon. Has a lot of experience. And so Stevie stayed throughout the entire sheep season. And everybody played like a super pivotal role in the outfit. And Stevie definitely did. Like they started out with horses that were like, lots of them were rank unbroke horses. And like Stevie and Rob with his help, like got them to hunter ready horses in a short amount of time. So Stevie just did an amazing job this year. He took on so much responsibility himself, and he probably lost more weight than any of the guides. There was nothing left of him. Like he just worked his ass off all season long. And I'm just super, super proud of Stevie. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And the next horse person was Chad Digby. And Chad has a ton of like bighorn hunting experience. He hasn't done as much on the guiding end, but for people that haven't hunted bighorns, I think a bighorn sheep is probably the equivalent of like killing 3 Dall sheep. That's how much harder it is. So Chad kind of got thrown to the wolves a little bit. He did 2 hunts with Rob, and Rob just Rob was the guide, Chad was along, and they just kind of, after 2 hunts, Rob was like, I think Chad's doing good. I think we're gonna kick him loose, and Chad just hit it out of the park after that.
That's
he
awesome.
was just stacking up critters left and right. He did just an amazing job. So I guess the next horse person would be Morgan Dortch. We hired her. She got hired basically as a wrangler, but she did like so much more for us. She was just constantly working from sun up to sundown. She was like just like a super refreshing face in the industry, like super, super passionate about the mountains, the outdoors, the people. I had a lot of respect for the land. I did a hunt with her, and it was probably like one of the funnest hunts I've ever had. Like so many laughs, and she's gonna have a bright future. And I was super, super proud of her. And then we had Dan Shepard, and I can't even say much about Dan because he said like 5 words all season. So I'm like, he's hardworking. He's like the biggest sweetheart of a guy, but I'm like, trying to have a conversation with him. Like, Dan, like, what's on your mind, dude? You know? And I didn't get a whole lot of response out of Dan, but Dan worked his butt off too. He did a great job. And then the backpackers, there was myself. I'm not even talking about myself. And I guess the first one at the start of the year was Gary Crookshank. So Gary,
aka Donnie
Chinook, who me and Gary / Donnie, we did our first season together at Stan's. We were like rookies, and we kind of got paired together, and we're just like we have the same twisted, screwed up sense of humor. And we're just like, me and Rob and Gary have kind of just been best friends for years. So Gary guided for us for years at Stan's. He guided with us. And then he went to Dan Reynolds. And then this year he was kind of like sort of done with guiding, but then he was like, he just really wanted to be a part of this for Rob, I felt.
Yep.
And he stayed on. He came back, did 3 hunts with us, and like Gary just hit it out of the park. He's one of those guys, like when Gary's out there with the hunter, like you just have like the utmost amount of confidence in him.
Yep.
He has so much respect for the land and the animals that he hunts, and he just always delivers. And you go to bed like with your jaw and your sides hurt from like laughing all day, right? That's the kind of person Gary is.
Yeah.
And the next person is Cass Karen. So Cass came from South Nahanni, and then she did some backpack hunts for us. She killed our first grizzly bear ever, our first moose ever, and then we did me and her did that doll sheep hunt together.
Yep.
She's like, guy, girl, doesn't matter. She's like one of the best sheep hunters on the planet. She's amazing. So she got to shoot a guide ram for herself this year at South Nahanni, and then she guided for us. Then she went home. Then she killed a bighorn. Like this was her 4th bighorn she's killed in her life. Like this girl's on another level.
Yeah.
She's a tremendous friend of mine, and she was just like super amazing.
That's awesome.
Super amazing. And then we had 2 guys return from the old outfitter, Dominic and Lucas. So they guided for the Olmsteads. They came up and did like the riverboat moose hunts for us. And yeah, without them, like, oh man, we'd have been screwed like running rivers and stuff. And these guys were just like good at like more bush moose hunting, because to the rest of us, it was very, very like new to us. And then navigating the rivers and stuff, those guys were just like,
what do you got for boats?
John boats.
Yeah, that's what they're called. John boats. Yeah.
Yeah. 40 horse legs on John boats.
Yeah. No,
Rob
they're pretty
wants to
good.
get bigger boats.
They're pretty good. Yeah, they're pretty good. Another learning curves, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Let's
but
say Nathan can operate feet, no boats, no horses.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
The
That's the crew in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
yeah, so
And so out of that
quite
crew,
a few guides,
Mm-hmm.
and out of that crew, are they all returning next year? Do you have any idea? Or
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I think Rob hopes so too.
Yep.
Because everybody did awesome.
and they've all got the first year under them, so they kind of know what to expect for next year. And
for sure.
And are you guys
I hope they all come back.
booking? You're doing go down to the sheep show, do a thing down there.
Rob probably will. I don't know if I will, but there'll be something. There'll be some bookings going on down there for sure.
Yeah, you guys aren't fully sold out for next year.
I think there's a few spots left for next year.
It didn't sound like tons, but
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So if someone's looking,
few.
they may be able to squeak in for a hunt still for next year.
Maybe, maybe.
Possibly.
I don't think sheep. I think sheep are all booked up.
Okay.
But there might be a couple other things.
Yep. Moose, caribou.
Couple other options, maybe. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Grizzly bear. Get a bear while you're
For
up
sure.
there chasing
for
moose.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Back to the we're going to kind of loop back around to all the long range shots taken on sheep.
Mm-hmm.
With the new technology that's out there now, what are you guys, what are all the crews that you got up there shooting with, like when it comes to optics and stuff like that? Like there's holdover systems inside the reticles, there's custom turret systems, like
everybody's pretty much running a custom turret now.
Okay.
Pretty much, or some of them like Zeiss will have both, right? They got those.
Yeah.
What are they called? A Rapid Z or something?
Yeah, they've got a couple different variations, but basically a ballistic reticle that is tunable to your
caliber,
velocity, et cetera, and then you just have to adjust power accordingly. But
no, everybody's pretty much running custom turrets. Like for the sheep stuff, the moose stuff's a little more traditional.
Yep.
It's bush hunting. It's like more 3 to 9s and stuff. Like, but pretty much everybody now on a sheep hunt is running some sort of custom turret for sure.
Yeah.
So there's Night Force, Husqvarna, Zeiss, Vortex, like Leopold, pretty much you name it.
Yep.
Everybody's got something different, but kind of all the same sort of.
Yep.
Same idea in the end, right?
And just back to our sponsor, Ballistics Targeting Systems. They've got the ballistic calculator. You can laser etch a custom turret, or at a better price point, you can get a waterproof yardage decal to wrap your turret in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are working up loads, you can do multiple decals at a much better price than aluminum turrets.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I've
test out.
too, a lot of the customers that I deal with too on a day-to-day basis, they'll pull a one-off hunt. Say they're a typical moose hunt guy. They pull the one-off hunt, they pull a tag somewhere. they phone up for a ballistic wrap to just do the turret because they're going
I'm
to do
hitting
a
6,000 feet.
and they're going to do a
Yeah.
single hunt, and they're like,
Yeah.
this is probably the only time I'm going to get to do this.
Yeah.
So like, I don't need a second turret. I just need one for that specific location, etc.
Mhm.
At a much better price.
Yeah, much better price, and or you can take 3 different stickers with you because if you have a hot, dry year, or if you have a cold year, you can literally rip that off, put on your low temp one, and give her.
Yep.
Right? Like
Yeah.
it's that fast.
Yeah.
Versus having like a drawer full of etched ones, right?
Mhm.
But-
Well, and another quick plug for ballistics. They partnered with Vortex this month, actually, to offer a free custom turret decal. So you only have to pay shipping to get it to you. Vortex is paying for the custom turret decal.
Mhm.
And if you want a custom turret, laser etched turret, they knock $50 off. So
Yeah.
excellent time to get in if you're running Vortex products because they
Mhm.
cover a good chunk of the cost. So
Yep.
Yeah.
so yeah, I've been using the ballistic turrets now for about 7 or 8 years, and I won't go back to not having one.
For sure.
And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
based on misses, now think about
Is this
early-
a Joe dig again?
No. Try not to go there. But
If someone was to miss a
I think
grizzly.
about earlier, times in guiding and different things like that before a lot of the good
Oh
turret
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
happened. You think of the 400-yard plus shooting that occurred before. It was a wild card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
People were still doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
I
But
held
it
over
was
its back. I think about a foot.
Yeah.
Or what, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
aimed
now,
at the top of the...
I mean, you think about how many misses you've seen in a season here, and it's probably a lot less than it would be without that kind of equipment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the one caveat I have to throw in is a person could have $20,000 worth of gear and still miss every animal they pointed at.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got to
That
get out and
doesn't
practice.
fix.
Absolutely.
That doesn't fix you.
No.
No.
And that's kind of the number one thing when customers come in and they ask about the ethics of long range shooting, long range hunting. And I tell them we know what the equipment is capable of doing, but you as a shooter, you got to get it in practice. If you're
Mhm.
not shooting confident in what your equipment can do, shoot it at multiple yardages to know that, you know what, I can hit this coffee cup at 600 yards
Yeah.
or 400 yards or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas before, well, I held about a foot over it and
Yeah.
hoping to hit it.
Yeah.
It's
Now remember, money will buy you the best of the best.
Yep.
But money also buys you a shooting school or a seminar to get schooled up on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
think about that in a lot of ways. Is that take
Yeah.
your equipment, get schooled up on it.
Yeah.
Because familiarity with it and just confidence in it, you're gonna crush it. It's not even funny.
Mhm.
And yeah, if I'm going on a paid hunt somewhere, I don't care if it's Kyrgyzstan, this, that, all over the world. Yeah, you're going to bring good equipment.
Yep.
And I want to know that when I lay down, I'm responsible for knowing what's going on, and I'm not relying on what someone else told me to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for
It's
sure.
there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then rely on your guide to tell you the distance, know your elevation where you're at, get her done.
Yeah. 100%.
It's a huge difference. Yeah.
Any other success stories from the season that you want to discuss, or just focus on a couple there? Or any things that you do different because maybe there were some not so enjoyable hunts that were still quite memorable?
I don't know. I think a lot of stuff's out of my hands. I think there's only so much I could do as a guide. I mean, there's hunters that probably could have showed up in better shape and that sort of thing, I guess. But I mean, for the most part, everybody did really good. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, success stories, like probably 2 hunts that stood out for me. Other ones were I did a hunt with Morgan and I did a hunt with Cass, and it was just really fun, like hunting with somebody else as well. And like you can
Like
learn.
a 2-on-1?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 guides, 1 hunter, and
Nice.
there's like less pressure on me, but I don't know. I don't really put much pressure on myself. I just do the best I can, and I don't like year 1 of guiding. Like, holy frick, you're nervous, right? It doesn't matter who you are. Year 1, you're just like, oh, this is intense. But now I've just sort of like I'll just hunt as hard as I can, do the best I can. But it was just fun to like hunt with somebody else and just have like lots of good laughs and just and you can always learn from somebody, even if somebody's like young, like Morgan. Like I can still learn just as much from her as she can from me or whatever. And so yeah, those are just good takeaways for me that
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
If a person was to do a little comparison, I mean, you worked for Stan for how many years?
8 years.
And so comparing those 8 years with Stan to what you just did this year, big differences between the hunting up in the Yukon versus when you were working for Stan.
I think it's kind of like apples and oranges. I think it's very similar, really. The end result is the same. I think it's ultimately just the behavior of the animals that was different.
Yep.
Like at Stan's, it was more what I was used to, or say what me and Greg were used to in BC. Like it'd be, bands of sheep, you'd see, maybe 6 or 8 or something. And in the Yukon, like it was common for us to see 12 to 20 rams together. That was super common. And then, I think I did 5 sheep hunts this year. 2 of the rams we killed were literally right with ewes and lambs, and I've never ever done that before. And then the other ones were, I would say, within 500 yards of ewes and lambs, right? So that was extremely rare, because I mean, usually they can kind of see each other, ewes and lambs, but they might be a whole mountain range apart from each other. And that's kind of traditional, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a huge difference. And then I think the moose was very different too. Like in the Yukon there, they still spend their summers up really high when they're in the velvet, right? They're tentative with their horns. But once the rut comes, all the moose just pour down to the river bottoms and congregate there, and that's how you hunt them there. And it stands, some of them come down to the river, but predominantly all of our moose hunts at Stands we did in high elevation, hunting high elevation willow valleys. And they stayed there all year, all rut, all everything. And come September in the Yukon, those places, there's no moose to be had. Like they're all down. So it was just it wasn't really better or worse in any way. It was just very different.
And have to learn the cycles of the animals because they're totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. So just different, right? It was just different. But the numbers were good. The numbers were similar. We had great years at Stands, and we had a great year this year too. So
that's awesome.
It's just different. That's all I can really say to it.
Yep. Well, now that the season is over, have you taken any time to do a little hunting for yourself, or with friends, or do any other hunting?
I've been kind of focusing a lot on the kids, but I did like one goat hunt down south. So me and Stevie, who I mentioned, our horse dude, we went down. Horse dude. Yeah. It's like I have no respect for horse people because I can't even saddle my own horse. But no, me and him, we went down, did a hunt, and actually on our way,
I spotted the goat that they killed.
He's
the week before. Putting it out.
Anyway,
there. He stole
Greg
it.
Was
he
nowhere
stole
to
it
be,
from my
Greg
hand.
was nowhere to be seen. So we went down there, and then our friend Lisa Mears had a draw on one side of the river, and then we were on the other side of the river. So we were gonna the spot we were gonna drive over to Lisa's side, and then you can glass like all the front of our zone, right?
Yep.
So we go over there, and Lisa's there, and we didn't know she was gonna be there, so we were kind of just having a little BS with her and Cody and whatnot, and then Stevie looks up on her zone, and he's like, "Oh, there's a grizzly bear," and then I looked on another spot and was like, "Oh, there's a pretty nice billy." And then Lisa was like, "You guys should, like, do you guys want to come with us today?" And I was like, I did, but I was like, "Stevie, like, we got a weekend. It's totally your call, dude." And he was like, being the good person he is, he's like, "Yeah, let's do it, man." So we went off, pulled a stalk. Lisa made a wicked shot at 600 yards, drops her first goat. Uphill shot.
600 yards.
600 yards.
First goat.
Uphill shot. And like I got a pretty good scope dinger here. So Lisa cut herself from my first wrinkle to my last wrinkle, hey? Like one of the worst scope wounds I've ever seen, right?
Wow, and that happens uphill.
Yeah, it was brutal, right?
Yeah.
So she was like, I told her I was doing a podcast tonight. She's like, "Don't tell them about the scope thing." And I'm just like, that's like, of course I'm going to tell them about the scope thing.
Big
It's
part
gonna
of the
be
story.
It's going to be the best part of the whole flipping podcast.
Yep.
And so anyway, so the next day, so they went home, and Stevie's like, what do you want to do the next day? I'm like, well, let's go to the back. We'll go to the back side of the mountain.
There was nothing out front.
There was nothing out front. So we're like, I'm like, it was real stormy. I'm like, hopefully there's something on the backside. And we go back there, and literally within like the same ridge I got a goat on last year, like 200 yards away, there's another Billy, like right, same spot. And it was just like crazy, because Stevie's like, well, how are we gonna, like, how do you want to stalk him? And I was like, man, like last year we'll just walk up the same ridge we did. And so we go up there, we hike up the same ridge. And it's kind of one of these stupid ridges with all these little fake rises. And I thought the goat was going to be a little further away. And I kind of poked up over this one ridge, and the goat's like 20 yards away looking at me. Hey, and I was like, shit. I'm like, Stevie, grab your gun. And it was so cold. Like he goes to shoot, and his like scope cap was like kind of like frozen on the back of the gun. So he pops it off. And the goat's like running downhill into these cliffs. He shoots at it twice, misses. And it was just like the mountain kind of went like this, and then it just dropped straight off. And then there was a huge bowl, right?
Yeah.
And we couldn't see, we just couldn't see anything. We're just like, the goat he's here. He's like right here, and we just can't see him. And so I kind of went out on this little perch, and then I looked, and then there he was. Look, he's just looking at me like 100 yards away. He's sitting on this ledge. So I'm giving Stevie hand signals, and it's steep. It's crazy steep. So Stevie's like inching down this hill, and he like kicks this big ice ball loose from under his foot, and the ice ball comes down and hits this goat right in the face, and the goat shakes his head, and I was like yelling at him. I'm like, you hit it with a friggin' snowball, but you can't hit it with a bullet. And
so does he not see it or what?
No, because it's so steep. It's so
yeah.
steep. So I'm like yelling at him, and the goat's like 100 yards from me. I can see him and Stevie in the binoculars at the same time, and I'm just like losing my mind because he's literally 30 yards away and he can't see it.
Holy.
And he finally gets to 20 yards, and then he's like, oh, and then he sees it, shoots it, and the goat, thankfully it kind of dove off a bit of a ledge, but then there was so much snow that it just kind of went like this, right in the bottom of the basin, and that's where he stayed, right? So it was so awesome, right? So because Stevie's Alberta resident, so this year was his first year of residency. Yep. Mountain goat's like number one on his priority list, right? So we get down to the goat. It's just a wicked 9-inch Billy. And he was just like, oh man, this has been like such a good weekend. Like we helped Lisa out, and then I got my goat, and it's just like good karma, like always comes back to repay you. Yep. And then on the way, so we got goats on the front of the bike and the back of the bike, and we're doubling out, and we get almost down to the truck. Yeah, a little reach around. And we get almost down to the truck, and there's this freaking big brown bear on the road, right? And I'm just like, and I just kind of sat there, and the bear just sat there and looked at me, and I kind of looked at Stevie, and I was like, have you shot a brown bear? No. Well, like, do you want to? Yeah, sure. And the bear's just standing there, so I had like my winch line wrapped over my gun because I had like out of stock, so I like zing, like relax the winch. Stevie pulls the gun out, lays down, shoots. The bear just quickly wheels in the bush, and I was like, "Did you hit it?" And he's like, "I think so." And then
what gun was he shooting?
My 264. Oh, nice. And then we just waited for like 10 seconds, and then we heard the death moan, and then Stevie started laughing so hard, and then his eyes just like filled up with tears, and it was just like he was just like, "I just can't believe this weekend, man! Like this was like so." Yeah, freaking amazing, man. So I was just like so beyond proud for him, right? So,
and he's shot lots of other animals.
Yeah, like lots of other animals, but he's never killed a goat and never killed a brown bear, and he got them like 3 hours apart from each other. Yeah. So it was wicked, man. Yeah, it just capped off a awesome hunting season for me. Yeah, I never shot a thing, and I had like one of my most memorable seasons I've ever had. So yeah, it was awesome.
That's pretty cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's about the adventure and the experience, not I got an animal.
Yeah.
It's better pointing at stuff for people to shoot, honestly, in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, especially now
when it's their firsts and
makes me feel so like heart filled, I guess, right? So
yeah,
I feel good about it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Not that I want to bring up Lisa's scoping again, but we were talking the other day about changing up equipment and stuff like that. And I know you're not a gear junkie. We're not going to get into all sorts of gear and what we're pushing, but you mentioned something about switching out stocks and going to thumbhole stocks.
Yeah, that's what Greg built a 264 for me, and I had like no intention of even getting a thumbhole stock, and he was like, try this thing out, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty comfy. And then Greg was like, yeah man, like that hand takes a lot of recoil out, right? So those really steep shots, because you can only get a little piece of that pad into your shoulder, right? So maybe it would have saved Lisa's pretty face, but I don't know.
War wounds are always awesome.
Yeah.
It's
a talking point.
It is a good talking point.
Because the gravity, as you know, when you're going up higher, every time you go up, you're losing the advantage of gravity. So everything's accelerated. So you have to preload in.
Yeah.
But like with the thumb hole, you know, your wrist is kind of locked in, but you're not really torquing the gun.
Yeah.
But when it goes to rise, your hand helps with that. Like it pushes you all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So there's, I mean, again,
the gun's not coming back the same way. You've got more forward
it goes
pressure.
Like this.
Yeah.
And generally that's why people shoot over a lot of stuff as they're shooting uphill too, because their gun is rising at a faster rate, so their impact ends up jumping too.
Yeah.
So typically in the mountains, you never hear anybody shooting under stuff.
No.
It's always over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
for sure.
So tuck them in tighter before you shoot, because late season, like I was down there a couple of different times. I mean, blowing snow and 10 below, just you're marshmallowed up.
Yeah.
I mean, that gun is just moving back like 2 inches without any real. So
something solid.
Yeah, you got the old Arc'teryx puffy jacket on. Make sure to squish the fluff out of it before you pull the trigger. Your face is going to do the recoil stop.
Yeah.
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 See this? None.
I've been touched. I've never been split though. Twice. Luckily.
Yeah.
That where I the one it flipped my hat off, and I think the hat got between it, and I had a crease, but it didn't fully split. So that's.
I used to shoot a 270 short mag. One Rob has shot billion things with it. Once in a while, I'd be like, "Oh man, I got close to my scope." But what it was is my Butler Creek cap. The recoil was so snappy that it would actually hit me. The Butler Creek cap, and I was like,
"That'll make you flinch."
There's no way I'm hitting myself with the scope, because I'm like, but it would hit me probably 60% of the time when I shot. And it'll flip. So then I realized that you can. Well, I got some ones that lock down.
Yeah.
Then they didn't poke.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time I was convinced, I'm like, man, am I touching? So I took a video. I'm like, oh,
what's hitting me?
It's the cap.
Yeah.
The cap would actually flip back and tag me.
Yeah.
Never hard or anything, but I'm like, yeah, if it got in the right position and like jammed you in the eyeball, that would be uncomfortable. So I switched up that cap.
270 short mags are a little rank too.
They're super fast.
They boot pretty hard, man.
They don't have the highest energy recoil, but it's just so abruptly fast.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, oh, I'll just get a 270 short mag. It'll be low recoiling, but it's actually a 300 probably is actually more comfortable to shoot.
Yeah.
Just because of the speed. And granted, I always make a 270 nice ultra lightweights, right? So then they kind of bark up a bit more. But.
Yeah, for sure.
This spring was my second scope kiss, but again, didn't split me, and that was with the 300 Ultra.
Yeah.
But laying down, it was my spring bear hunt, and laid down on the ground and got really comfortable in there, and boom, and it got me, but didn't split, thank God.
Oh.
Yeah. You just don't want to shoot like an old 3-9 Leopold VX2.
No rubber.
With a hard, it's literally a knife edge.
Yeah.
I mean, those things, it looks like you were in a 10-round freaking battle with Mike Tyson after they club you.
Yeah.
You're just like,
Diaz
you guys any
split.
chewing gum? Just squish my
I'm feeling
eye
self-conscious about my forehead now. Just because you guys have no cuts, and I'm just like a mess.
Yet. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, well. Yeah. It's coming. I'll probably do it next weekend. You watch.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I hope so.
Tip over a deer or something, but get right ugly with your scope.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to touch bases with you on is health. So you're probably one of the fittest people I know. You live at the gym in the off season, and you're just go working harder than anyone else in there, I think you leave more sweat behind than anything else. You leave it all on the mat. But you've been dealing with some other health issues and stuff, and I think a lot of people would may help them out with their battles if they heard a little bit about kind of what you got going on and how you work through it, and you're not letting it slow you down or stop what you got, what you want, what you love in life. Like hunting seems to be the big thing for you, right? So
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about
my health condition. So I've had Crohn's disease since I was 16 years old, and it is it's a bowel inflammatory disease. It's from 16 to 20, I had like, those were like the hardest times in my life. And back then there wasn't a lot of like
it was relatively new.
Well, it wasn't so much new, but it was just, there wasn't a lot of ways to treat it, right? There was either surgery was common, or like prednisone. Like for those of you guys know that prednisone, it's just like it's a steroid that's really targets like inflammation, right? It does an awesome job at controlling it, but it's horrible on your body longevity, right? So from those years, that's kind of what I was like going in between, right? And so then when I got to, I think I was about 22, there was some more drugs that came along. And so Crohn's disease, it's an autoimmune disease. So what it is your immune system attacks your digestive system, right? So for me, mostly my large bowel,
and healthy cells,
a little bit in my small bowel, right? So now what they do with it is they it's an autoimmune disease, so they give you drugs to suppress your immune system. So that's what my treatment is. I get drugs that suppress my immune system. It sounds kind of crazy, right? But it makes my immune system so weak that it can't attack me, right? So
what does that do for cold and flus and those
brutal
sorts of things?
It's brutal. And that's why I have to like really try to maintain as healthy of a lifestyle as I can. Having a bowel disease, you have to be like super cautious of what you're putting into your body for foods and everything. And so just living like an active, healthy lifestyle is super important. So as far as like my treatments go, like being in the Yukon this year was awesome because I have to get treatment once a month. I have to go into and get an infusion, right? That's how I get my drugs. And I could actually get that in Whitehorse this year, which is 3 hours away from the area.
Nice.
So when I worked at Stan's, like me and Stan we were constantly coordinating in between hunts, right? It was just like, okay, I can do this hunt, but I can't do this hunt. And outfitters are like always known for like, can you just stay like 2 more weeks? You know, Stan would be like, it's just this one hunt, you know?
Yeah.
And like, so I was always like stretching my boundaries, but like if I'm like 2 weeks overdue on my treatment, like I could really harm myself, right? So I'd try to like keep it within a week or something. But this year was like a huge blessing, like being that I can do like the IBD clinic thing in Whitehorse, man. So I got done one hunt early and I just drove to Whitehorse, got my treatment, and then I think I picked up a hunter on the way back and came back out. So yeah, it was awesome. But I don't know. I just try not to, I mean, I have it. I respect the disease, but you know, like I respect my body and myself, and I just try to like do the best I can with it. Yeah. I don't talk about it too much because I don't want to nurse anything or milk anything.
It doesn't need to control your life.
Yeah, no, I don't want it to define me. I don't want people to be like, oh, Nathan Aasen, that's that skinny weird guy with Crohn's disease. Hey,
is he the guy with Crohn's?
Yeah, no, I don't. It is what it is. It's something that I have, and I don't know. Ultimately, I think I'm doing the best job I can to live a healthy lifestyle, and like thankfully I can get my treatment in the Yukon, so I don't have to come all the way home. Yeah, and then my guiding season's virtually done, right?
Yeah. So you just missed out on
that. Sucks. That sucks. So So no, it's going a lot better now. So
excellent.
We'll see what happens. See where life takes me.
Because like when you start the season, you're actually put on some beef, and then by the end of it, a guy's a skinny mess.
Yeah.
Oh, you work all winter to gain 15 more pounds.
Yeah, totally.
To lose it all.
Totally.
You were out there 6 weeks?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
And what kind of
I probably lost like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Same with Gary. Gary was really, me and Gary were we were skinny. But yeah.
And you're both hikers, not horseback.
But Stevie was a horsebacker and he worked so damn hard. He's also a bigger guy too.
Yeah.
But I think he dropped, he was like low 20s, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're working so hard. You're eating dehydrated food. Yeah. Like you cannot replenish yourself, right? You just can't. So most sheep hunts, like people are often going to lose 10 pounds. I don't know what you lost on your hunt, Aaron.
9 pounds in 7 days.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine you did 6 sheep hunts or 5 sheep hunts in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So if you get done early, you can replenish. But if you have those grinders, man, the weight's just gonna like fall off you. And I don't have that. I don't have much storage.
No,
so right
I'm
now,
storing a bit.
right now I'm on like trying to get my weight back up kind of thing. So that I just kind of got back into training, and I'm just trying to like gain back what I lost. So I still got a few pounds to go. So those are my short-term goals.
Yeah,
for sure.
Cheeseburgers don't really put back in everything you lost. That would be more my strategy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. If you guys want to reach out to Nathan or Yukon Peak,
how about Rob?
Yeah.
I'm just Rob's voice.
Okay, reach out to Rob. How do they get a hold? How do they get a hold of you?
You could probably Instagram Rob or Facebook Rob, or you could even pick up the phone and phone Rob.
We can post the numbers, the Instagram accounts.
Yukon Peak, take your calls. Yeah.
Yukon Peak has their own Instagram. If you want to follow that, do they have Facebook as well? Or
probably,
straight
but
up Rob?
You're asking the wrong technical person.
Okay.
They got Instagram, I know that.
I've been following you. I've been watching all your hunts,
That's
actually.
Good.
So I'll steal a few pictures off there and send me what you can.
I'll send you what I can.
We'll upload them so everyone can see what we're talking about.
For sure.
And so reach out to Yukon Peak. There's a few hunts available for next season, but if you're trying to set up a sheep hunt, try and book a couple of years in advance to make that happen. And we'll put all their information up on the screen so you can check them out. We'll put a link as well in the comments. And be sure to check out ballistics.ca for your custom turret needs for whatever scope you've got. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Fuck yeah, we nailed it.